So there are a lot of myths associated with epilepsy, and these myths date back to well before the time of Hippocrates, so early, way before Christ or before the Common Age. People used to think that epilepsy was caused by the moon. They thought it was caused by evil spirits. They thought that people with epilepsy were crazy. A lot of this still persists today. And then there are more common myths that occur now that people really believe are associated with epilepsy, and they're really not true. So things like if you have epilepsy, you can't get married, you can't drive a car, you can't go swimming, you can't reproduce and have children. And then there are the other things like if somebody has a seizure, you should put something in their mouth to stop the seizure, or that they have to go to the emergency room immediately every time they have a seizure.
And people hear the word epilepsy and they think that it's some horrible disease, but yet you could be perfectly normal with epilepsy and hold a very good job, have children, get married. We hear this all the time about camp where, well, my child has seizures and they can't go to camp. That's not true.
And what we do is we empower people to live as normal as possible a life. Obviously, if you're having lots and lots of seizures, then there are some restrictions. But in most states, you can drive if you've been seizure-free. And the time that you have to be seizure-free before driving varies. It's about a year in New York State, so seizure-free for a year. The other myth is that you can't get married. Of course, you can get married and have children. There's no restriction on that, although there were laws restricting that in the past. Another one is that you're crazy. People with epilepsy are not mentally ill. There is a higher rate of depression in epilepsy, but people with epilepsy are not automatically psychiatric.
And holding
patients.
a job. I mean, some people feel like epileptics aren't trustworthy or they're not capable of doing something as intelligently as somebody else, and that's really not true.
Although we have had patients where they've been fired from their jobs because they had a seizure at work, and that's illegal. And that is certainly something that's managed by the American with Disabilities Act. There's no reason to fire someone from their job because they've had a seizure. And then talk about the myths about how to take care of a person who's having a seizure.
The myth about choking on your tongue, that patients while they're having a seizure that they could swallow their tongue, and that's not going to happen, and that's why we tell people just rest them on their side, let them finish having the seizure, but don't put your finger in there because they're not going to choke on their tongue.
There's also the myth about having to take someone, it's not a myth really, but it's something that's done commonly, is that every time a person with known epilepsy has a seizure, they go running to the emergency room, where oftentimes there's nothing acute that can be done for them. It's better to call their doctor. We're using up a lot of healthcare dollars by having people unnecessarily treated in the emergency room.
And that brings up the comment is having a seizure plan, so where the family members know if someone has a seizure, what to do if they have a seizure, and everybody sort of be on the same plan.
So the big misconceptions are things about like what causes epilepsy. It's not the gods, it's not heavy metals, it's not the moon. In fact, there was just a study done in Ireland that totally disproved the full moon theory about it causing more seizures. The other things are that people with epilepsy can live totally normal lives. They, in most places, can drive if their seizures are well controlled. They can swim, they can run, they can camp, they can hold down a job, they can get married and have children. And then the other misconception is about treatment of acute seizures. You know, again, not to put hands in their mouth or put anything in their mouth, and not to necessarily run to the emergency room if it's somebody with known seizures. Use your seizure treatment plan and manage it that way.